Hi, everybody. My name is Stephen Rothstein. I'm the Managing Director of the Ceres Accelerator, and it's great to be with all of you. We have today an embarrassment of riches with the speakers you've just heard and the ones that you're going to hear in just a minute. I am humbled, and I really mean humbled, to welcome two national legislative leaders from the state of California. For the past 2 years, State Senator Scott Wiener and State Senator Henry Stern have led a legislative process that have resulted in the enactment of two companion pieces of legislation that all of you know about already, that will ensure that the largest public and private companies across the nation that are doing business in California will publicly disclose their emissions. Under their truly remarkable leadership, California has enacted two pieces of legislation, SB 253 and SB 261, and the recently updated amendment, SB 219, that would not have happened without their work. It's an honor to see their tenacity, their hard work, their deep public service, their personal determination, and their amazing staff and team that work with them. And now we're excited to have the California Air Resources Board to move quickly to the next step. These two important laws will allow investors, companies, staff, and other shareholders to understand the climate risks of the largest private and public companies across the country. So the nation, all of us in this room, and I'll be honest, our children and my grandchild are indebted to them, because more information will lead to a better Earth. Please, if you're able to stand, please stand as we welcome our two favorite state senators from California up for a stage to be recognized. Please join me.
Good morning, Climate Week. My name is Andrew Collier, and I am the Director of Freedom to Invest at Ceres. Freedom to Invest is at the forefront, along with our allies and partners, of organizing investors, financial institutions, and companies to push back against restrictive legislative efforts that would ban the consideration of climate risk and other opportunities in decision-making. Climate and related factors are clearly material to protect medium and long-term success of corporate strategy and investment portfolios. One critical piece of the puzzle is the support of state attorneys general, who are pushing for and defending strong disclosure rules and looking out for investors and consumers. Without further delay, I'd like to introduce this rock star panel. Please help me give a warm welcome to Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison, Arizona Attorney General Chris Mays, California Attorney General Rob Bonta, and New Jersey Attorney General Matt Platkin. All right. Well, thank you all for being here to discuss this critical issue. But before we get down into it, I do want to ask the audience a couple of questions. Raise your hand if you're familiar with environmental, social, and governance factors. How about climate disclosure? All right, pretty educated crowd. I think we're good to go. So, Attorney General Mays, for the last 2 years, you've worked hard to push companies to operate responsibly. Tell us about some of the work efforts in this space, and why do you think it's important?
Yeah, well, so I as some of you may know, because I used to come to these meetings, I'm a former Public Utilities Commissioner. I was a member of the Arizona Corporation Commission, regulated utilities. And you know, I think it's really interesting now as Attorney General to understand how much AGs can do and are doing on environmental issues and on clean energy. And it's just incredibly important to me, given the impacts of climate change in Arizona that are dramatic, whether that's our drought, our extreme heat, and addressing those things, addressing our water supplies. So, you know, from that standpoint, it's critical for people at every level of government, whether it's PUCs or AGs or governors, to be getting involved in this space and doing what we can. And we've done a lot around intervening in front of our Public Utility Commission on energy issues. AGs can do that, or at least in some AG offices, to make sure that our utilities are engaging in clean energy policies, implementing clean energy. And so, you know, it's a priority for our office.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Your work has really been incredible. Attorney General Ellison, Freedom to Invest, along with allies and partners, have been incredibly successful in educating the importance of investors and companies having the freedom to invest and operate responsibly. In your own words, why do you think lawmakers are realizing that fiduciaries have been and should continue to be the professionals that are able to consider ESG factors that are material to investments?
Well, a lot of us as AGs, we might sit on the State Board of Investment, or we clearly, as the chief law officers of our state, want to make sure that people have that freedom. And we're in the midst of a fairly contentious situation where we've seen Republican AGs, quite honestly, sending letters to corporate entities, top 100 companies, sending letters to state boards of investment, and discouraging them and even telling them they might be violating the law. They're not, by engaging in environmental sustainability and governance issues, or for that matter, diversity, equity, and inclusion. But you know, you've got to have freedom to make your own calculation about risk, about your own calculations about return, and we don't need a group of ideologically driven AGs or anybody trying to handcuff investors and people who make investment decisions, particularly when all they're doing is looking after the beneficiaries of their pension fund. You know, we live in the reality. What Chris laid out is reality. We have drought, we got flood, we got extreme weather events, we got all this stuff. And to ignore climatic factors is to ignore risk, which is to ignore the best interests of the people who benefit from the pension. So we've got to keep moving on this. I'm looking forward to us being a little bit more protective, a little bit more forward. Right now, it feels like the movement is doing a good job, but we're a little bit defensive. They make a aggressive claim, and we sort of say no. But quite honestly, I think we're getting towards time to really start trying to encourage folks to do what the law allows them to do and what is in the best interest of pension beneficiaries and our state's investment portfolio. So those are a few ideas.
Yeah, I think the audience loves that response. That was great. Attorney General Platkin, great to see you again. What can be done to make sure that investors and financial institutions continue to have the freedom to invest and operate responsibly, and at the same time be accountable to avoid greenwashing? What are the most important things that you're keeping your eye on?
Yeah, and General Ellison just laid it out. I mean, it sort of blows me away that we even have to have this conversation. You know, we hear a lot from the other side about respecting the free market and free enterprise, and yet here we are having groups of Republican AGs weaponizing their office to go after people for making what is so clearly in their long-term business interest. You know, we didn't in the 1990s have like the fax machine lobby come and start suing companies for investing in the internet. It's obvious that any company that is thinking about their long-term interest has to take into account the impact of climate change, and it's their free market right to do so. And that's really what we're standing up here for. That's why it says freedom to invest, so for you to be able to operate and invest in the way that is in the long-term best interest of your investors and the people that you serve. It's in your fiduciary interest. As it relates to greenwashing, yeah, when somebody says something that they're gonna do, they have to live by that. That's not new. That's in the basis of our consumer protection laws that we've all enforced for 100 years. It's the laws that several of us used to sue the largest oil and gas companies for lying about the impact of climate change, while, by the way, their own internal research showed them that the impacts were going to be significant. And what did they do? They raised their offshore drilling platforms. They invested in technology to drill in the ice caps because they knew they were going to melt. They took steps not to save the climate, but to maximize their economic benefit, knowing that climate change was coming, and yet at the same time, fighting to mislead the public and to prevent us from taking, and you all, frankly, from taking actions that are in your long-term best economic interest. So greenwashing is really important because when somebody says they're going to do something, whether they're lying to you about what is actually happening or they're saying they're doing something good and not, it's deceiving the marketplace. And that's where we step in and have stepped in and will continue to.
That's great. Attorney General Bonta, you've been in the news recently, but this is an audience filled with investors, companies, policymakers, and sustainability advocates. As parting words, what is your message to them on what matters most?
Well, thank you for the opportunity to be here. Rob Bonta, California Attorney General. Good morning, everybody. I do just want to say a few things in that regard. One is consideration of ESG factors is good business. Threats to our planet, our climate, our environment are also threats to our economy, our financial future, our business ecosystems. And just look at some of the data last year, 2023, about 30 major climate, environmental disasters costing over $90 billion. Those are real considerations for our business community. Those are material considerations for fiduciaries. And so this really ought not be political. To me, this is common sense. This is just straight adherence and compliance with the fiduciary duties of business leaders. And if we are to address our shared collective climate challenges, we all have a role to play. As was referenced, a recent role that I took was in the litigation space, suing ExxonMobil for perpetuating the myth of recycling and harming our planet, choking it with plastic waste. And you, our investors, our financial institutions, our businesses have a very critical role to play as well. So I encourage you to lean into it. I do want to say this about California, realizing that I'm not in California. But when I am, and I'll say it today, I often say things like California is the 5th largest economy in the world. We're the largest state in the nation. We are the state that has led to the phrase in politics, as California goes, so goes the nation. And sometimes people will tell you, and they're saying that to you now, that you can't both be good stewards of the environment and address climate threats and risks and do good business. That you can't support your workers and working people and have a thriving economy. And California is here to say, yes, you can. Those are false choices. You should reject that zero-sum fallacy that you can only have one but not the other. We believe, and we have shown, that you can have both. We have grown to be the 5th largest economy in the world, not in spite of our commitment to our environment, to climate action, to our workers, to our consumers, but because of it. We believe you can do many things at once and pursue your values, and that it is good business. It's a smart investment to invest in the future of our natural resources. It's a smart investment to support our environment. It's a smart investment to support and uplift our workers. So California, I believe, with your indulgence, is a model and an example of how we can really embrace ESG factors and thrive economically and financially.
That's great. So we do have a couple more minutes in this session. So in 5 words or less, can you each tell us why this specific topic is important to you? I know it's a tough question.
5 words or less?
5
Do I
words
have
or less.
to?
You can go over if you'd like.
Okay. Well, I'll do 11 words, I think. I used to be a Republican, and I supported ESG then, and I'm a Democrat now, and I still support ESG. And if I could just elaborate on that really quickly, you know, the first thing that I did when I took office in 2022, by the way, I won my race by 280 votes out of a little more than 3 million. They don't call me landslide Mays for nothing. And the first thing I did was I reversed the decision of my Republican predecessor to investigate banks and BlackRock, I believe it was BlackRock, for over ESG. I eliminated the investigation and pulled Arizona out of it because it was a ridiculous waste of government resources. And I believe in it, and it's really remarkable that we have gone from a situation when I used to be a Republican, when Republicans said that they supported the free market, they said that they supported the ability of corporations to make their own decisions about how they accessed capital markets. That's what Republicans in my day, when I was a Republican, used to believe, to the one where today, really, it's Democratic AGs who are standing up for your ability to access capital markets in the way that you see fit. And the last thing I'll say is, remember, you know, you have the right to protect your shareholders. You have the right to make these decisions, and you have a fiduciary obligation to make these decisions. You know, back when I was on the Public Utilities Commission of Arizona, renewable energy was at a premium, right? You guys all remember those days? When renewable energy was not the least cost resource. It is the least cost resource today. And so that's why corporations are making the decision to purchase renewables, to do energy efficiency. And they're doing that because it betters the bottom line and because their customers are demanding that. So keep that in mind. Don't be bullied by people who don't want you to do the right thing.
That's great. All right. Well, thank you all for being here, making the trip here to New York. And thanks to everyone in the audience. If you'd like to learn more about Freedom to Invest, there's a QR code on the screen. You can take a photo of it and head to our website. But thank you again, and hopefully we'll see you all soon. Thanks very much.